Okay, now that you have your computer set up, we're going to start coding. You should have a browser open. I'm using Chrome and some sort of an HTML editor. I'm going to use Visual Studio Code, but I've also used in the past Atom, Sublime Text, Notepad++, so any one that you choose that you want to use is fine. An HTML editor basically creates text files, and we're going to give the files a .html extension so that the browser knows how to interpret them as HTML. So you might be asking, what is HTML? It's hypertext markup language, and it does exactly what it says in the title. We're going to mark up text, and in some cases make it hyper with links, but the markup tells the browser what the text is supposed to look like, and the properties that we give it, the values of the attributes that we provide to it, and the different options are going to tell it how to behave and act in the browser. So I've got my Visual Studio Code set up here. When you open yours for the first time, there may be a welcome screen or a get started screen. You can just close out of those and just make sure that you have a window open. And I'm going to say File, New File. Now in Visual Studio Code, if you get this, we just want text, so just choose the text file here. If that doesn't come up, don't worry about it. It should come up and have this line of text here, select a new language. And we don't even need to do that. We're just going to start typing in the text editor, and then when we give it the HTML extension, it will know that we're using HTML. This should be pretty similar if you open a new file in any other HTML editor. So the first element, and I'm going to use the words tag and element interchangeably. The first element that we're going to use is the HTML element. It tells the browser some HTML is coming, and all elements are surrounded by angle brackets. So I'm going to put HTML in here, opening and closing angle bracket, and I'm going to go down a little bit, and I'm going to close that with the slash. Now, Visual Studio Code closed it for me automatically, and that's one of the benefits of using an HTML editor. But if you have to type yours in completely, do that. You always want to close any element that you open. If you make sure that you type in pairs, when you open an element, go ahead and close it, then that will prevent mistakes that have to be gone through a troubleshooting process later. Now, everything's going to go within the HTML tag here. There will be nothing above it or below it. The two elements within this are the head, and as I write this, it's going to give me the opening and closing. I'm just going to put some space in between that we can put elements within there, and then the body. So notice we have an opening and closing head and body tag, and I'm just removing this space. And so the head area has information about the page, not anything that goes in the window of the browser. The body is the area for the content of the page. So you have a head and a body. There is no neck. Nothing goes in between the head and the body. The elements either go within the head because they're information about the page, or the body because they're content on the page. And if you see any of these little dialog boxes popping up, it's just your editor's way of giving you some information about what that element is. So you can ignore those as we're typing. So one of the elements in the head is the title. And we're going to give our page a title. I'm opening and closing the elements. And you'll notice here, I'm just going to put my name as the title. I'm surrounding the text Cindy Royal with the opening and closing title tag. It doesn't matter if the closing title is down here. It will not read any of the spaces that we put in this as we add spaces below it if we wanted to. But this just knows that we're surrounding the text Cindy Royal with the opening and closing title tag. The title is information about the page that's going to go in the tab on the browser. That is where the title goes. So at this point, this is where we want to save. So if we just come up here in the menu at the top and do a save as, and we'll be able to pick where we want to save this. Now, if yours comes up, your computer, and it's smushed down like this, you always want to click this little down arrow here next to the where, because this will let you have access to your whole entire computer. We want to be very careful where we save things, because things matter where we save things in web design. Once we start getting more files, some images, they have to be held in the same folder, because that's how they'll make sense when we load them up to the web. So in this case, I want to put something in my documents folder, and you can save this anywhere you want, just as long as you create a new folder for the files associated with the project that you're working on. So in my documents folder, I'm picking new folder. I'm going to call it website. And then I'm going to name the file in the save as in the website folder index.html. Index is what we use to name the home page of our site because that's what the browser looks for when it's opening your URL for your site, your domain name. It looks for a file called index.html to be the home page. And we'll discuss this a little bit more later. So if we save this, now we've got the file saved as index.html. I should be able to come over to this tab, and in Chrome I can do a file open. You can also do command open if you're on a Mac or control open if you're on a Windows computer. And then I want to navigate to that website folder in documents and open the index page. And we don't see too much here, except we do see the title that we created, the name that we put in the title bar. So we're started. We're off and going on a website now. Now we want to put some things inside the body. So the first thing we'll do is put a paragraph in here. And again, we just want to open and close it. And I'll just say, welcome to my website. And put anything you want in there and save it again. And every time, and I'm just going to do a Command S to save because that's pretty quick. Every time we save it, we can come back over here and refresh the page and see the different things that we've done on the page. So that's the process. We'll be going back and forth between the editor and the browser. HTML has 6 levels of headings that we can use. Think of headings as levels of an outline, and don't worry about the sizing or how they look right now because we'll be able to add that later with CSS. But for now, let's add a heading. I'll just put my name here because this is going to be the name of the site. You could have other things in your top heading if you wanted to. I'm going to save it again, back to the browser, and refresh. Now keep in mind that we are just looking at this file on your computer. It's not on the web yet. This is a local file on your computer. We'll figure out later how to load this up to the web so that people can see it across the world. Now I'm going to add a few more headings here for sections of my page. I'm going to have some H2, so that's going to be a little bit smaller than an H1, and I'm maybe going to have an introduction section. And then anytime I can copy and paste to save time, I'm going to have another H2 that's going to be my education. And another one for hobbies. And then maybe within each section I'll have paragraphs that talk about all these different things. But this is just to demonstrate how these different elements look. So I'm going to save this. And now we should be able to come over here and refresh and see all those H2s I created. So we're starting to see a page come together. The last thing I want to talk about in this video is to introduce these ideas of attributes. An attribute is like an option that some of the elements have. And so in this case, we want to start with the first element in the body tag, and that's to make a background color. And that's just BG color. And the way we use attributes is we say attribute equal, and then in quotation marks, we put some sort of a value. And so the value in this case needs to be a color. We can actually put in a word for a color, or we can put a hashtag and 6 characters and get a hexadecimal code from a color. And there are plenty of places online that have hexadecimal codes that you can get if you want a certain mixed particular color. But for now, I'm just going to put in light blue. Browsers recognize a lot of different color names. So let me save this and refresh it over here, and we should see the blue background. So you're off and running with coding. If you go to Code Actually and look in the sidebar, you'll see an example that has a little bit more of the code here, and you can copy this and then make changes to your own page. And you'll see an example of the code that you can use on your own here, and then what it should look like. And then there's some more description here of some of the basic elements, as well as a link to that color code page that I'm talking about. In the next video, we will talk about how to insert images on your page.